In the previous spoiler, it was revealed that Luo Feng displayed his fierce strength in battle, slaying more than 10 king immortals in one stroke, and even earning the recognition of hostile alien powerhouses, thus being granted the title of King Blade River. You may have noticed that some immortals' titles sound more like personal names, while others resemble martial techniques or weapon designations. In fact, compared to those who use their own names as titles, designation-like titles usually spread with greater renown. For instance, Luo Feng's third senior brother, King Bloodthirsty, though only at peak King Immortal level, enjoys a reputation that far surpasses even that of King Jinyan. One can well imagine every slaughter he engages in must be a blood-soaked tempest, terrifying and earth-shaking, enough to forge the fearsome reputation he holds today. As for rising stars like Luo Feng, who had no prior reputation, a single great battle that conquers countless powerhouses naturally makes him the subject of endless private discussion. After all, they couldn't keep calling him that one, that guy, that fellow every time. Thus, the title King Blade River was born. A powerhouse's signature weapon or technique is often the easiest source of a title. It becomes both a symbol of identity and the best proof of strength. This battle made Luo Feng famous as King Blade River across the 7th battlefield, establishing him as a widely recognized King Immortal. Although the participants were primarily alien powerhouses of the automaton race camp, the news spread like wildfire, almost instantly sweeping across all 4 factions including humanity. As for Luo Feng's battles under another identity in the extraterritorial battlefield, King Jinyan had already long been aware. Being his most beloved disciple, Luo Feng was constantly under his close attention. Hearing this news was undoubtedly shocking for him. After all, Luo Feng not only effortlessly slew more than 10 King Immortals, but even forced a limit King Immortal into slumber. To think that such a feat could be achieved with nothing more than a world master level body, which something even King Jinyan himself could hardly hope to accomplish. As for the Primal Chaos City leader, although he did not keep as close an eye on Luo Feng as King Jinyan, his status and authority within the Virtual Universe Company and the Hong Alliance meant that nearly all of Luo Feng's trump cards, aside from the 9 Calamities secret tome, were within his grasp. Do not forget, with the city leader's authority, he could easily retrieve Luo Feng's battle footage and purchasing records at any time. Upon learning this news, Primal Chaos City leader immediately ordered that the true identity of King Blade River be classified as top secret, and strictly forbade King Jinyan from leaking even the slightest detail. The 5 great powers even went so far as to issue a direct decree where all King Immortals stationed in the solar system were forbidden from provoking Luo Feng. After all, among those stationed there, the strongest were merely at peak King Immortal level. With Luo Feng's strength, trampling over them or even killing them would be as easy as turning his hand. If someone were to clash with Luo Feng while guarding Earth and dared to challenge his authority, their destruction would be nothing but their own doing. Yet among the station guards who knew nothing of the truth, there were inevitably some who felt discontent that Luo Feng, merely at the World Master level, was able to enjoy such extraordinary privileges. Thus, the seeds of jealousy and resentment quietly took root. Although Primal Chaos City leader understood that Luo Feng's astonishing battle record must have relied on a series of methods, the fact that he achieved it solely with his human body still left Primal Chaos City leader deeply shocked and full of praise. Had the golden horned beast attained the same results, the impact would naturally have been greatly diminished. After all, as a human, a world master's base strength was far inferior to that of a King Immortal. Logically speaking, it should have been nearly impossible for him to slaughter King Immortals as easily as chopping vegetables. Primal Chaos City leader even suspected that Luo Feng might have drawn upon the power of the King Great Armor. But regardless of the truth, it was enough to prove Luo Feng's extraordinary nature. After all, the activation requirement of the King Great Armor was extremely harsh, as it demanded bodily fitness at least on par with a low-tier King Immortal. For a World Master to reach that level meant that once he broke through to immortality, he would inevitably stand on the same tier as invincible existences like King Jinyan. If Luo Feng had not relied on the King Great Armor, then it was all the more terrifying where it meant he possessed secrets even Primal Chaos City leader could not glimpse, and that alone represented astonishing potential. As for Luo Feng's secrecy, Primal Chaos City leader did not mind. After all, every powerhouse had their own secrets. So long as Luo Feng's heart remained with the human race, and he was willing to fight for them, it was better to place hope in his continued growth than to probe into his hidden truths. In the eyes of Primal Chaos City leader, the more mysterious and unfathomable Luo Feng was, the more anticipation he inspired. This battle not only earned Luo Feng great renown but also brought him staggering wealth. King Heavy Arrow, being a limit King Immortal, was immensely powerful, through years of accumulation, his wealth alone surpassed by tens of billions of mixed yuan units the combined fortunes of the dozen king immortals Luo Feng had slain earlier. Yet the true greatest gain from this battle came from killing King Purple Bell. The wealth King Purple Bell left behind exceeded the combined riches of all the other king immortals by a full 100 billion mixed yuan units. More importantly, this did not even include King Purple Bell's ultimate trump card, that Purple Ancient Bell, a heavy treasure class weapon, which was a universe venerable level armament. As for their liquid currency, since it belonged to a hostile faction whose monetary system was incompatible, it was naturally useless to Luo Feng and could not be counted. From this haul, it was evident that although the stronger one is, the greater their wealth was an eternal rule, there were often exceptions for those who possessed extraordinary opportunities. Such individuals frequently accumulated fortunes far beyond their peers, just like in the case of King Purple Bell and Luo Feng. After this battle, Luo Feng's total wealth had already surpassed 200 billion mixed yuan units. Yet, if he truly wished to convert that into his own strength, whether to enhance the golden horned beast or the evolution of his auxiliary lifeforms, this wealth was still far from sufficient. Thus, Luo Feng began planning how to help King Heavy Arrow recover his peak strength. Of course, before that, he naturally would not forget to first use the same method he had employed on Irina to gain complete control over King Heavy Arrow, reducing him to a sole slave. After all, whether it was the battle power of a limit king immortal or his mastery of teleportation, both would serve as tremendous assets to Luo Feng. At the very least, when it came to teleportation, he would no longer need to spend vast sums hiring allies to act. For this reason, Luo Feng deliberately returned to the military base, spending another several hundred billion to purchase the strongest fire god origin crystal. He then exhausted nearly half of the fortune gained from this battle to purchase various precious materials capable of awakening King Heavy Arrow and restoring him to his peak. It is worth mentioning that this expenditure included treasures seized from King Heavy Arrow himself. After all, since he had become a slave, aside from his habitual weapon and critical battle armor, he no longer needed to amass wealth. Naturally, Luo Feng absorbed and redistributed everything. At first glance, it seemed King Heavy Arrow had been stripped bare by Luo Feng, left with a miserable fate. Yet apart from the lifelong servitude he was bound to, he in fact gained enormous benefits. First, the resources Luo Feng invested into his recovery were already double what King Heavy Arrow had accumulated over the years. Second, as a limit king immortal of a subsidiary race under the automaton race, and not even a core member, the secret techniques available to him were far inferior to those Luo Feng had access to. One must know, Luo Feng was not only a member of the Virtual Universe Company's Primordial Void Space but also a direct disciple of Primal Chaos City leader. The secret techniques and rare treasures available to him were undoubtedly far more profound and precious. And most crucially, Luo Feng directly handed over King Purple Bell's heavy treasure to King Heavy Arrow. In fact, the Purple Bell did not only possess astonishing offensive power but also offered defensive ability on par with the King Great Armor. Whether against soul attacks or physical strikes, it could dissipate more than 90% of incoming force. However, the rules of the universe had always been fair. Since both were defensive weapons that needed to be integrated into the body, Luo Feng could only choose one between the King Great Armor and the Purple Bell. Yet, Purple Bell could not, like the King Great Armor, grant him the power of 10,000-fold of peak World Master's base strength, and thus in terms of utility, it was far inferior. Without question, Luo Feng would naturally choose the King Great Armor, while Purple Bell could only be handed over to King Heavy Arrow. Perhaps some may wonder, why is it that Luo Feng can use both Shi Wu Wings and King Great Armor simultaneously, without any conflict? The answer is actually very simple. Shi Wu Wings is not, in the strict sense, a defensive weapon. The reason it exhibits such astonishing defensive effects lies entirely in its peerless material. One must understand, even though it exists only in a fragmentary state, it is still a mechanical type weapon at the level of an eternal true god. Speaking of its material alone, even if the Primal Chaos City leader personally took action, he would be hard-pressed to damage it in the slightest. It is just like the Earth's E-grade automaton race spaceship from years past. Neither the newborn golden horned beast nor the invading New Lanshan family could shake it, even when the ship's defense systems weren't activated. Yet now, Luo Feng can easily split such a craft in two with a single slash. This is precisely why, as a warrior's level advances, the raw materials required for their weapons must be increasingly higher grade. Only stronger materials can bear greater power. As for Purple Bell, though it is indeed formidable as a heavy treasure, its demands on one's comprehension of the original laws are equally exacting. By comparison, it is actually more suitable for Irina. The reason is simple: to control Purple Bell, one must first fully comprehend the original law of fire, and among Luo Feng's current soul slaves, only Irina meets that requirement. However, being suitable does not mean being able to unleash its true might. Irina has yet to master the divine ability of spatial lockdown, and she is still far from fully cultivating the battle secret technique attached to Purple Bell and driving its power perfectly. Furthermore, as a Zerg Queen, her true advantage lies in swarm tactics rather than individual combat. In contrast, King Heavy Arrow, though an Earth Elemental immortal, has ultimately followed the path of the original law of space. Yet he also possesses considerable attainment in the original law of fire and shows promise of fully grasping its essence. With the augmentation of divine power, although he cannot perfectly wield Purple Bell for now, he can at least draw out more of its power than Irina could. Therefore, entrusting Purple Bell to King Heavy Arrow for the time being is not only reasonable, but also ensures that Luo Feng gains stronger support on the battlefield. After more than 3 months of divine body recovery, King Heavy Arrow finally absorbed all the materials Luo Feng had prepared for him and fully regained his peak combat power. In fact, at the very moment Luo Feng slew King Purple Bell, he had already earned 10 quadrillion military credits, an amount a full 100 times greater than the quota set by the Virtual Universe Company. This meant Luo Feng had long since surpassed the requirement of the life and death trial on the extraterritorial battlefield and could have chosen to retire and return to humanity's territory. However, how could a cultivator who truly sought to stand at the peak of the strong stop there? Before leaving the extraterritorial battlefield, Luo Feng resolutely decided to take King Heavy Arrow with him to the most dangerous place of the 7th battlefield, the Star Tower. The Star Tower itself was an unimaginably colossal weapon, so vast that its scale was utterly awe-inspiring. If the sun were placed beside the tower, it would be like a human standing before a towering skyscraper, appearing incomparably tiny. The tower constantly devoured cosmic energy, building up 9 layers of terrifying energy vortices where depths into which even universe venerables could scarcely penetrate. More astonishing still, not even universe masters, or beings at the level of true gods, could shake the Star Tower in the slightest. In the eyes of countless races, it was the supreme, unrivaled weapon. What's more, the occasional emergence of heavy treasures within the Star Tower only added to its allure, drawing hundreds of thousands of king immortals from every race to swarm in, each striving to explore it, to seize fortunes, and even dreaming of becoming the true master of the Star Tower. In fact, the Star Tower could also be considered the handiwork of Sitting Mountain Guest, which is the ultimate weapon he had specially prepared for Luo Feng, or more precisely, for any being of Earth's lineage capable of becoming the Star Tower's master. Thus, when Luo Feng traveled there aboard his spaceship, even though he was still more than 10 days away from the Star Tower, he could already feel its overwhelming summons, a call stronger than that of the King Great Armor and the 9 Calamities secret tome. However, when he reached the entrance at the base of the Star Tower, no matter how he tried, Luo Feng was unable to make the Star Tower acknowledge him as its master. He did not cling to the thought, but instead stepped resolutely into the forbidden space within the tower to explore. The so-called forbidden space was filled with countless independent dimensions, all isolated and unconnected, making teleportation impossible. One could only advance through ever-shifting corridors, which made venturing inside exponentially more difficult. Beyond the constant risk of hostile alien races suddenly appearing for battle, one also had to face unpredictable perils, such as the guardian puppets forged from metal that guarded these forbidden spaces. When Luo Feng first stepped into the forbidden space, that powerful summons did not bring him fortune. Instead, it acted like a trigger, attracting a guardian of a level that King Heavy Arrow, despite years of exploring the Star Tower, had never once encountered. The guardians surged forward in fury, their massive forms closing in like iron walls, each trapping Luo Feng and King Heavy Arrow within its separated encirclement. Luo Feng struck back with his blade, but his attacks could not even scratch the guardian's defense. He could only rely on the strange footwork granted by Sure Wu wings to evade. King Heavy Arrow, on the other hand, was no longer the weakened figure left behind after being heavily wounded by the fire god Origin Crystal, but now displayed his true peak power. Even without burning his divine body, with the amplification of secret techniques he condensed an arrow suffused with double force, piercing clean through a guardian's abdomen. Yet bizarrely, that guardian instantly split into 2, each one as fierce as before, lunging separately at Luo Feng and King Heavy Arrow. Although Luo Feng's attacks could not deal real damage to the guardian, his lightning-fast speed rendered him equally untouchable. King Heavy Arrow, steady and composed, struck another heavy blow against the other guardian. But then something uncanny occurred. The guardian's body burst open to release a metallic puppet in the shape of a giant scorpion. This scorpion-like guardian, though unable to unleash law-based attacks, relied on its terrifying raw strength, its blows shaking the very fabric of space until it cracked. In the clash, King Heavy Arrow quickly judged that its defense was nearly flawless, leaving no openings to exploit. His only choice was to adopt a strategy of delaying, waiting for the next passage of the forbidden space to appear. Meanwhile, the two guardians he had injured moments earlier instantly recovered and once again joined forces to unleash a frenzied assault on him. It is worth mentioning that these guardians forged from memory metal can endlessly repair themselves as long as their core remains intact. Under the dual pressure, King Heavy Arrow gradually fell into disadvantage, no longer able to provide support for Luo Feng. After all, when facing puppet enemies, unless it's a matter of life and death, burning one's divine body is simply not worth the gamble. The Scorpion Guardian's assault was fierce. One brutal collision sent Luo Feng flying backward. Luo Feng swiftly shifted his stance, his figure flashing as he closed in at extreme speed. Suddenly, he spurred Sure Wu wings into motion, unleashing his self-created pinnacle secret technique. The strike came so fast and so ruthlessly that the Scorpion Guardian had no time to react and was forced to take the blow head-on. At the instant he sliced open its metallic surface, Luo Feng seized the moment to channel the power of Sure Wu wings, forcing spatial energy straight into its core. In a flash, the Scorpion Guardian froze in place, seemingly losing all power. Yet the two guardians still battling King Heavy Arrow immediately rushed over, seizing the Scorpion Guardian and vanishing with it. Though King Heavy Arrow had never encountered such high-tier guardians in all his years within the Star Tower, he knew well that perils beyond reason often heralded the imminent appearance of a heavy treasure. Luo Feng, however, faintly sensed that this seemed more like a death trap tailored specifically for him. If that were true, what kind of danger would he face next? Stay tuned for the next spoiler, where I will unveil it all for you. Well, that's all for this video. Thanks for watching this video. Wish you a wonderful day.